I'm Debi Peverill, and you're listening to one of a series of posts on pricing and profitability. Today what I'm talking about is how to quote a job. New business owners, or everyone eventually, is asked for the first time, how much would you charge to do that? And for some business owners, this comes as a surprise to them. They hadn't really thought about how they're going to figure that part out. So what I want to talk about today is how you would set up a framework so that you have a plan for how you're going to give quotes when people ask for them. So the first decision, do you sell a product or do you sell a service? If you sell a product, then you have to concern yourself with materials. How much material are you going to need to do something? So let's say you are building a deck. If you've been asked to quote on how much it's going to cost to build a deck, then your first step would be to figure out what size the deck's going to be and to take a look at the house the deck's going to be attached to. Are you going to need it to be high up? Is it going to be fairly low to the ground? How big is it? How is it going to attach to the house? All those things. So you measure it, you figure out what you're going to need, wood-wise, various kinds of wood, screw. Are you going to be the one that has to stain it? In which case there's a cost for that as well. How are you going to support it? Are you putting it in concrete? Are you going to put it on pavers? How's it going to work? So once you have an idea of what materials you need, then you go and get quotes from suppliers for how much that would cost. And if you're doing your quote in writing to your customer, which I certainly hope you are, then you need to get a quote in writing from your suppliers so that you can prove that that was the amount that they actually told you they were going to charge you. So once you got the materials, you want to add a markup to that, which I'll come to. Next conversation is labor. I am in a service business. We don't quote using materials. We quote just on labor. So if somebody brings me a pile of receipts and they need it turned into an income tax return or a set of financial statements, then I can give them an idea of how long I think that would take, and then I know what we charge per hour. So our charge per hour already includes things like our profit and our overhead. If you are paying people to do this work, you're going to get somebody to help you with the deck, then what are you paying them an hour? That would be a part of determining your quote. How many hours is it going to take? What are you paying them an hour? Don't forget about vacation pay. Don't forget about CPP and EI, and also, breaks and holidays that might come up while you're doing it. So that's materials and labor. Next up is overhead. This is an area where people forget about it. They think, okay, I'm going to build this deck. Here's the labor. Here's the materials. That's what it's going to cost. Well, if you did every job all year long and on that basis, you would find out you lost money, because how are you paying for your insurance? How are you paying your rent? How are you paying your loan payments? How are you paying your bank charges and the interest on your loans and all that kind of stuff? You need to have something for overhead. So there are a couple of different ways you can do it. You can just add a percentage to every job, but the percentage should be based on how much work you think you're going to have and what your overhead is. There's another post in this series about covering overhead where I suggest that you add up your overhead, divide it by the number of weeks a year you're working, and add that amount to every week's quote. That might work, or the percentage might work. And then, of course, you're supposed to make a profit. Right? We're in business to make money. So once you've covered your labor, materials, and overhead, you need to add an amount for your profit, because, again, we're not just trading dollars here. You're trying to grow a business. So you want to make sure that you have included a profit in that calculation. Then the last step would be to get a written quote. Make sure that you understand with your customer what they're asking for. What you're giving them is very clear. You document what you're going to do. You document what they're going to do, when you're going to get paid, whether you're going to charge interest if you don't get paid promptly, and whether there's any warranty. And the last step on how to quote this job is when the customer says, yeah, that sounds good, you get them to sign it and you sign it. And then you're done. You've quoted your job.